coming at you from Scratch a Wolf Studio. It's that time again to rage across the internet. It's your very favorite Werewolf the Apocalypse podcast. I'm Porter. To my left, my co-host, Daniel Tyson.
Hey, everybody.
And, hey, guess what? We've got our good friend, C. Grant Rose in the studio. Grant, how the hell you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
That was a lie, by the way. He's not in the studio.
Come here, remote.
That's right.
Welcome back, Grant. Thanks for coming in again.
Appreciate it. Always nice to be here.
This is number 5, I believe, for you, that I know without having to check, Danny.
Math is hard. Right? I said Lyric was on his 3rd, and he's really on his 4th or 5th, depending on what day it is.
Oh, he's TC now. We fixed that.
I still call him Lyric.
He's TC now.
Okay. There's a race going on, and Grant and TC are in the lead, neck and neck. How about that? Melissa, gotta catch up.
Yeah, first to 10 gets a set of steak knives.
Steak knives.
A toaster.
There you go.
That's second place.
We put on a show here, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right. So how's everybody doing?
Good so far.
Having fun.
I hope so. That's what we do here. I do want a quick announcement. Actually, before we get into the nonsense.
Before we get to... Okay.
Before we get into the nonsense. We've been asked about some stuff. And so I want everyone to know that, yes, we're aware of Apocalyptic Record. Yes, we backed it.
That happened.
Yeah. No, we haven't talked about it yet. No, we're not talking about it right away. You know, there are the transcripts for the backers, and that's great, but we have been a little busy.
Yeah, we kind of have a schedule we're trying to stick to.
Right. So we will get to it when we feel it is the appropriate time and our schedule permits it.
Yes, because scheduling already sucks, and we had it in place. We don't want to screw it up any worse than it already is.
We're sticking to a thing. It's amazing. But yes, we know about that. We're aware of the comic. Totally aware about that. We are, of course, aware of the announcement about Werewolf 5, and that's something we plan to talk about soon. But we're aware, everybody. We're just trying to stick to our schedule is all. So thank you for your comments.
And the questions.
But
yes.
We know. Please stop. We know.
Yep. We'll get to it when we can. That's pretty much it.
That's about, long and the short of it.
Or you could always drop in the Discord, and I'll tell you how I feel about all of those things.
You know, we will talk about it. I mean, we do talk about it in the Discord. And the Discord, believe it or not, is a thing that we have, because Grant just said so. And you can find that where, Danny?
On our website, right in the forums.
That's right. All you got to do is go to our site. Right there in the forums, there's the invitation to our Discord. You pop on in, you come hang out with us and the pretty amazing community we've built.
Yeah. All the people there, they're all brand new friends every day.
Right? You know, and hey, if you're already in the vicinity, you have the website, you could pop into our store.
Hey, look at that.
Get yourself a Rage Across the Internet coffee mug or a mouse pad or...
Almost anything.
We got a lot of stuff on there.
A lot of stuff.
Actually, I want to do, when we get some free time, I actually want to add some more shirt variants.
Okay.
Because we have those different mouse pads.
Right.
We got the RAI one, we got the I Ain't Forgot Shit mouse pad.
Yeah.
So I want to make that a shirt. The I Can Soak It shirt.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So
okay.
You'll get an announcement when those are due. That's something I want to do. And of course, you can get to all of the goodness in our forums where we have all sorts of neat shit.
Yeah, like character essays, book reviews.
Yep, stuff from the old Nocturnus forums, if you're familiar with that. And if not, you go check it out. There's some good stuff there. But what is that website, Danny?
www.rageacrosstheinternet.com.
Still nothing from Grant.
Man.
Thank you, Mr. Helper.
I mean, it's y'all's thing. You can't do that all in like the sequence and sing-song stuff. I don't sing. Unless it's to my wife, and that's very private.
We are now doing a musical episode, and you are going to be on it. But, you know, we're not here to talk musicals today.
Nah. We're going back to the Lost Ones.
The Lost Musicals?
No. Lost Tribes.
Oh, that explains my notes. Okay.
You thought it was the wrong set?
I didn't know what was happening. Jesus Christ.
Did you black out?
Thought I had a stroke. So, yes, without further ado, it is the second part of our Lost Tribe series. We really have the audacity to call this a series. There's fucking 3 of them.
counts.
I guess.
More than one still counts.
It's technically a streak. If I don't know. All right, fine. We're talking Bunyip today.
So we're going to the Outback.
Well, we're seeing the studio. We can have Outback delivered.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It sounds delicious.
There's not one close enough that it wouldn't be rubbery trash.
Solid point.
Anyway, it's Bunyip time, everybody.
Bunyip time.
That's right. What I think is probably the most interesting of the three lost tribes.
Okay.
For sure.
Now, because we went Croatan last time, and yes, we had our opinions on them. We did the story behind that. That was good and fun, and yes, there's the White Howlers, but kind of cliche how that ends.
Well, everyone knows the White Howlers. Everyone wants to do that. Everyone likes that redemption arc. Mm-hmm. And the Picts are awesome. And you look at the art for the White Howlers, that like out of W20, with that badass blue woad on the Krynos, on the white Krynos fur. Yeah, that looks amazing.
It does, yes.
People have always been fascinated with the White Howlers. We know that story. And, of course, that's next. That's why that's last.
Yeah.
But the Bunyip, I think, have always gotten the short end of the stick.
There's not as much information about them as any of the other lost tribes.
Yeah, there's a fair amount, but I wouldn't, there isn't. I don't think it's a fair amount. What about you? What do you think, Grant?
I think that it is kind of scarce, and I believe the primary reason of the scarcity is that the early writers of White Wolf, they interlocked the Bunyip with certain topics that a lot of modern writers are kind of hesitant to approach or really tackle. That being the dreaming or the dreamtime of the Australian Aboriginals. It's their religious beliefs and their cultural identity a lot of times for different tribes, and it has a heavy variance based on which tribe is talking about it in Australia. So a lot of modern writers, especially over here in the U.S., they want to keep that at arm's length because they don't really want to step on people's toes. As you know, talking about religion and writing about religion, it's kind of a no-no. So you got to be really, really careful. So a lot of those guys are just like, no, I'm not doing that. So that's my belief as to why White Wolf didn't go too deep into them. But, I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't work for them back in the day.
Right.
It's understandable.
But I think to a point, there's a level there I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not...
Well, it is the World of Darkness. So it is a make-believe world. So people should take with a grain of salt that, hey, this is not the dream time or, the dreaming of our world and of the Aborigines. It's World of Darkness's version. I mean, it has time travel wrapped up in it if you read Shattered Dreams. I don't know anything about time travel in real life, but please let me know if someone knows.
Yeah, that's something obviously we're going to touch down on further, and I've certainly got something to say about that. But I get, obviously religion is a topic that, it's on the dangerous don't list. Mm-hmm. I know that things have changed, but, when I was coming up, and I know the same with you, Danny, and probably you, Grant, too, is like, that's one of those topics you don't talk about in mixed company.
Right.
You don't talk religion, you don't talk politics, you probably don't talk money.
Yeah, because you only are working to offend somebody else.
Right.
And that's not what we do.
But in fiction, you talk about people being nervous to step on toes because, there's the religious tones with the dream time and all that with the Aborigines. But we use religion, and not us personally, but in fiction all the time. You look at the Judeo-Christian undertones of vampire.
Oh, very much.
Right. You look at the animism in werewolf. You look at the American native cultures that have been leaned into. So I don't think it's, and I'm sure your reasoning is correct. I look at that as a bit of a double standard, and I kind of frown on that because nobody's getting made fun of.
No, again, you said it's a fictional setting.
Right. Like if anyone were portrayed in a light where they were meant to be mocked because of, whatever thing, I would definitely have a full problem with it all the way around. But I think if, everything was handled as respectfully as I think they knew how in the day. And you also got to remember is back then, we didn't have the internet like we have the internet.
Right. Yeah, you didn't have that much information readily available to you.
Right. I would, and I wasn't there, but I would wager that a lot of the research from, early vampire, early werewolf came from the Dewey Decimal System.
Some old school stuff right there.
Right.
Just made my ears bleed saying that.
Yeah, for those of you unaware, that's a thing that was in a building full of books.
Called a library.
Right. A book is Thanks,
Xylo.
Oh boy. But, I think you're probably right. But I have a problem with that it's, it's okay over here if we touch down on the religious elements, but it's not okay over here. It should be all or nothing.
I mean, I see it.
I concur.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I see why the problem is they don't want to get there, quote.
Sure.
They don't want to even get close to it.
But they made me write something else in the first place.
Possibly.
That's what could have been, not what is. So, the thing is you talk about the dream time and the rainbow syrup and all that stuff. And that stuff is fascinating to me. And again, you never hear about it anywhere. Because maybe, again, like Grant said, maybe people are just afraid of touching the subject. I don't know what. But it's been used in all sorts of media for years and years and years. Hinted at here and there. And, I think that Simpsons had an episode on it, for crying out loud. I mean, statistically, they've done everything, but...
Statistically, yes. Which means statistically, so is Family Guy.
I'm not... Look, that is a different show, and I'm already bored.
Good point, yeah.
Well...
Just saying, anything Simpsons done, Seth MacFarlane's going to steal from them, too. Moving on.
Thank you. But yeah, they've always been the most fascinating. I mean, you look at the Croatan, and there's something to work with there, obviously. But and I hate to demean it, but at the end of the day, they are another Pure Ones tribe.
Yes,
we have 2 of those. Okay, we have the White Howlers, which everyone and their brother is enamored with, and we've heard about a million times. And I'm not sick of them. I think they're cool. I like them more than the Bunyip, but I find the Bunyip more interesting.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, they're like the middle child that gets glossed over, and I think that's pretty unfair. So I'm happy to be doing this episode.
Okay. So do you want to start?
I thought we did.
With the dream time? Let me
Shit.
Finish the sentence, Jesus. Do you want to start with the dream time?
We could. I'd probably defer to our buddy Grant here. Where would you like to start, sir?
We can go into the dream time for a little bit, but that you can honestly spend the entire episode just discussing the dream time.
All right. Well, then how about a better start would be, who are the Bunyip?
Yeah, the origins of the Bunyip. How's that?
That works.
Yeah.
So, as some know or don't know, the Bunyip are one of the few, tribes of Guru, quote unquote, that actually were not of the Canids when they were wiped out. They were not a wolf breed when they were wiped out. They were actually of the thylacine, which is the Tasmanian wolf or tiger. It's both of those are generic common names for them, but that animal actually was a carnivorous marsupial. So it was like a killer koala.
I mean, don't picture that at home.
Oh, it sounds kind of badass.
No, they were their own unique thing. But yeah, Grant's absolutely right. They were not wolves. I mean, they were at one point, apparently. But this now depends on your edition of werewolf.
Oh, one of those.
Is for the story of how this happened.
Yeah, there is some version differences, but they all agree that prior to the War of Rage, they were of one of the normal original tribes. Marting Man would bet on them being part of the Kucha, which became the Red Talons, and that's actually the direction that we take in the Savage Age with them. But after the War of Rage, they were disgusted with what happened, and due to that, they migrated all the way down to Australia. And then they had to make some decisions.
What kind of decisions?
I'm glad you asked, Tyson. So the biggest thing is that there were no wolves down there in Australia. So they had to figure out a way to maintain their beast kin. So what they did was they had a good relationship with the Mokole, or depending on your version, with the Kamadzats that was down there. And they got a ritual from the Mokole that enabled them to kind of shift their beast kin to an apex predator that was down there at the time. The apex predator of the area was the thylacine, was the Tasmanian wolf. That's who they picked, that's who they went with.
Because again, there are no wolves, so we go with the marsupials.
And not the dingoes.
But here, again, marsupials, as in also kangaroos.
That's true.
And also hamsters.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
But, that said, the Bunyip were well-renowned for being able to box. And they did have a love for shredded paper, so that would make sense.
So, the more you know.
I can imagine a chronicle now with Bunyip and the hunt for shredded paper.
They get their boxing gloves ready to go to war, and as they do in
That's one
nature.
of the other things.
Of course, yeah. To make
That
their
is one
own.
of the version differences is why they actually picked the thylacine instead of something else. The core book of W20 says that they did it to get a deeper connection to their homeland, while Changing Breeds just says it's because of the lack of kin. In my opinion, it's both. There was a lack of kin that they could pick from, and they wanted to get closer to their homeland. And at the same time, the Tasmanian wolf was the apex predator of the area. They were through all of Australia and Tasmania. So regardless if it's a wolf or not, you're going to go with the biggest badass on the block if you have the choice. And that's who that was at the time.
Oh, sure, if you have a choice.
And I definitely agree that, you know, those two answers aren't mutually exclusive. But
They can absolutely both be true.
yeah, but you know, yeah, you love to see those differences.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, now I wonder from a behind the scenes standpoint if they were chosen over, again, say like the dingo, because they had to be dead. Because of course the thylacine is extinct.
Right.
Right.
No, okay, no, I'm following. Yeah, it makes sense because dingoes still are around.
So there's no kin.
Huh.
Also, we can't call them baby eating bastards, and I feel like that
That's true, too.
might have been a deciding factor.
You'll get a bad rap.
Yeah, right?
Dingo.
Like suddenly you don't feel so bad for them. You know, they're running around eating babies all day. I'm glad they're dead.
Try not to.
See, it's not fair when you don't laugh.
No,
When you hold the laugh in.
just trying not to sing the song.
Oh my god, no. We're not doing the musical today. So, like, and a word on the Bunyip's culture, though, is they were very spiritually inclined.
Absolutely.
Like, probably the most so of the nation. And, you know,
At the time, because again, they don't exist now.
well, 12 of them do, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh,
Right.
So that's
I would
news to
actually
me.
argue that the Bunyip were more attuned with the spirituality and their spiritual culture, even among the modern tribes today. Like, I think they were more in tune than even the Stargazers. And the primary reason for that is because of their ability to enter the Umbra. They were the only tribe that could basically enter the Umbra nearly at will, without a focusing device, without reflectiveness, without looking at themselves in the water or whatever. They could just decide they wanted to go to the Umbra a lot of times, and that's what they did.
interesting.
Well, I mean, I think we could argue, I mean, your version depending, obviously, because there's definitely a level of the gauntlet issue, I think, could also be brought up. I mean, I haven't gone there to measure, but I can't imagine the gauntlet in the Outback's overly thick.
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. Is it because you're bringing up Gauntlet? There's a lot less of an issue to get to the Umbra there, so it makes it easier for them specifically.
Well, I think both can be true.
Okay, again, not mutually exclusive.
Because, yeah, they were super spiritually inclined. They were kind of weird, in terms of the scale, the Garu scale.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I mean, they're already weird because they weren't wolves. So
Well, we're talking even before that. They'd always been kind of outsiders anyway.
okay,
So it made their decision to move to Australia, pack up their house and leave. I make it sound like it's just like they got a midlife crisis and fuck it, we're going to Australia. But
gonna buy a motorcycle on the way.
it was right over that water, fuck it.
You said midlife crisis. So.
Yeah. But no, I mean,
they were what the children of Gaia seemed to aspire to be in modern times. Now, the Bunyip were very pacifistic. They were very spiritual. But even though they were pacifists, they were quick to defend themselves. They were quick to defend things that are underneath their charge.
yeah, I
The
wouldn't.
ideal is definitely what the children of Gaia aspire to.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't call them pacifists, but they weren't a warlike tribe. They weren't.
They weren't your warriors.
I would put them again, like we said earlier, closer with the Stargazers. Well, the Stargazers will fuck you up, but they'll be cool about it while they're doing it.
Teach you a lesson or two.
Bad when the hippie whoops your ass. Just saying.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to use that word on this show.
Yeah, we don't. We've never said that.
We have never called a tribe that word, and we will continue to not.
Everyone
and still
thinks
get
we
shit
said
for it.
Yeah.
don't know the politically correct alternative to that word, so my apologies.
No, it's not a political correctness issue.
No, we called someone we knew a hippie. We never called any of the tribes hippies.
And then for weeks we took shit for calling a particular tribe a hippie, which never happened.
Yep.
Okay. Now I see. Now I'm caught up.
Those words were never used together.
They were used, just not together, right?
Like, we bring it up. We're just inviting this again.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
What's wrong with us?
Someone's like, well, you said this and this. I'm like, yep, okay, thanks. Thanks for reminding us.
You're welcome. I'm here for you.
Oh, that's amazing. But so, the Bunyip, they lived their whole deal until they didn't. And I think, unless I'm jumping, am I jumping the gun here?
I mean, we're talking about now why they don't exist.
Yeah, I was just going to run right into the War of Tears. I feel like, am I jumping the gun, Graham? What do you think?
I mean, there's still a lot we can backpedal on, honestly, because, we haven't touched on the fact that the Bunyip didn't have metis or metis.
Allegedly.
How are you supposed to pronounce it?
It's metis.
Kentucky gets in my mouth. So.
Well, there was a phonetic spelling, met.
Right.
Is.
Ruler Age, page 8.
7.
Maybe
7 and 8 is the same page, so it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
we didn't touch the fact that they didn't have those.
Allegedly.
So they allegedly. It didn't really break that aspect of the litany. And then at the same time, we also didn't touch on the fact that their cairns, were more protected than the average cairn. Like, non-Bunyip Gru couldn't just walk into their cairns. They couldn't use a moon bridge to get into them. They couldn't enter into them. They needed special rituals and special access given to them by the Rainbow Serpent or one of the Bunyip itself.
Well, that's the thing too. And I mean, that presents a problem today. But again, getting ahead of ourselves, you point out the Rainbow Serpent, and that's another one of those version changes that we talk about.
Different editions.
And in different editions, because sometimes their totem was the Rainbow Serpent, and sometimes it's Bunyip itself.
Okay. See, I didn't get as far as the Rainbow Serpent. I know that Bunyip himself was the totem, but
You didn't go far back enough.
I didn't go far back enough. Okay.
Originally, the Bunyip the tribal totem was the Rainbow Serpent.
And then, I suppose they made that change because of the real world connotations from the practices. I mean, I would believe that.
It would make the most sense.
I mean, I'm speculating here, but I would assume.
I don't know why they did.
Yeah.
But it's in Rage Across Australia is when they detail that Rainbow Serpent is their chief totem. And at the same time, it was also a major Australian incarna. So it was a very powerful spirit. And then they actually go on to say that once the Bunyip expired, that the Guru Nation was just cut off from this spirit. They had no idea what happened with the spirit, if it went into the dream time or whatever.
And then, of course, mind you that until Werewolf 20, Rage Australia was the primary source, like kind of the only source for the Bunyip.
Oh.
Well, there was the Past Lives book, but it was the primary source.
Primary source, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Right, and they actually changed it to Bunyip in Wild West, is when they changed it.
Is that a fact?
Hmm.
I didn't know they were in Wild West.
Were referred to in the Wild West. They were talked about.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Because, of course, they couldn't be playable in a time where they were alive and well.
I mean,
Doesn't stick in my craw in the slightest.
What? You kidding? You sure?
No. Should wait till our Dark Ages episode. I'll have some words to say. Now, moving on.
Okay, yep. Leaving that alone.
Ugh.
Yeah, so they detailed the Bunyip in Wild West because the Bunyip at that time were still alive. So they didn't mention them. But they also stated that the Bunyip pretty much had little to no reason to go to America at the time. Obvious reasons. So.
Well, it was sweet of them to make that decision for us, I think, is my point.
I mean, it leaves it open for us storytellers, vault writers, to make a Wild West book on Australia.
Well, certainly now, but 20 years ago when Wild West came out, 25 years ago, whatever.
Oh,
I guess you could go to BJ Zanzibar's and...
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something there for
that setting got the short end of the stick.
It really... Well, I think all the alternate werewolf settings got the short end of the stick. That's what it was.
Okay.
But yeah, there's really not a whole lot written about just what the Bunyip. Amazing if we would have got a tribe book at some point. Maybe it's like a stretch goal or something. But
Hint.
hint's over. They just didn't do it.
Like they...
Well, by the time this airs, Apocalypse, the Kickstarter for Apocalypse, it's over. So
It's over today, actually.
yeah, so there's no Bunyip book, there's no Croton book. The end, because Werewolf 20 is now over.
Yep. You have to leave to guys like me and Chris Gunning and all the others that write for the Vault to make up something that's viable.
Counting on you.
Hopefully that happens, because...
Counting on you.
It was the can of worms by doing the White Howlers one.
Yeah, because didn't they do it like 2 or 3 times?
No, they did. They did the White Howler tribe book.
Right. Okay, so
And they did it well. That's the thing. The book is it's done well.
So they did one of the Lost Tribes,
Right,
but not the other 2.
See what I mean? White Howlers get all the attention.
And then they also did the Black Spirals tribe book like 4 times.
That's a story for a different tribal episode.
Okay. Hinting towards that too, then.
Well, I have feelings about... I mean, that is my stance on a Black Spiral tribe book, is I have a problem with it in the grounds that how many editions of Book of the Worm do we have?
Mm-hmm.
And each one of those calls they had to dedicate a chapter to the Black Spirals and call it the Black Spiral tribe book. So we've had more Black Spiral tribe books than we have...
Anything else.
Yeah. So we don't need another one. Give us stuff we didn't have.
Yeah,
we'll a Bunyip book.
Right, we'll talk about that on the...
Oh, yeah, we will.
The White Howlers episode, or the Black Spirals episode.
But let's talk about some Bunyip.
So here's my thing about the Bunyip that I really found interesting. And all of the Australian fare, for that matter. They were all more or less aware of each other. Even if they were indifferent, they still knew they existed. Including the Naga, who, as you know, are notoriously... secretive and hidden. There are some version differences about the Naga, but by and large, for the most part, prior to W20 establishing some version differences, even the Naga knew about the Bunyip and vice versa. The only ones that really had a problem with the Bunyip were the Anunnaki, and they're the ones that actually kind of pushed the Thylacines to near extinction by provoking the Aboriginals to go ahead and kill them all. So I always thought that was a very interesting perspective. That's one of the few things. Anunnaki, they kind of are ignored a lot of times about the impact they've had on the Pharaoh, but they've been underlying genocidal manipulators. Like they're the ones that started the wipeout and the genocide of the Neanderthals. They did for the Thylacine tigers. There's no telling how widespread it is for them just killing off other people for whatever reason.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because it's not...
Sketchy bastards.
Well, it's something that I think gets overlooked. Is there's this perception, and I get where it comes from, because I've read the damn books, that the War of Rage was the Garu are big meanies going after all the poor, innocent other shifters. And it's like, no, everyone hates everyone for onesies. Yep. It's not that simple. And, you point to right here, like we were talking about with the Anunnaki, but everyone seems like, oh, no one else did anything wrong. It was just the Garu who were evil in genocide. It's like, no, everyone is an asshole here.
Yeah, nobody liked anybody else. I mean, hell, there are several of them. They said they don't like each other.
Allegedly the only innocent party would be the Kamatats.
I was going to say the Kamatats, yeah.
Or perhaps the Koraks, because they always get a free pass.
Because everyone feels bad.
Everyone gives them a free pass, so maybe them too. But you can't... No, everyone was the bad guy. I mean, the Garu just won.
And we talked about we did the whole entire thing with the Bastet, right? How many times did we each had a tribe where they would say, a tribe of Bastet, and they would say that this tribe doesn't like this tribe, or this tribe.
Sure.
And that was just talking about Bastet.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's refreshing to hear a scenario where another Pharaoh is responsible for shit.
Right.
I agree, yeah.
Hey, who's not responsible for anything is the Nuisha. They don't do shit. They just giggle.
I would wager... when we do our breed single episodes, I think there's going to be a diatribe or two about how the Nuisha secretly fucking provoked
everything.
Probably, just because of them.
Started it all. The entire thing.
They thought it'd be funny, and it got out of hand.
They provoked the war of shame. They provoked the war of rage. They provoked the war of tears.
War of the Worlds.
That was Keanu Reeves. Never mind.
Whoa. So...
Don't talk about Keanu Reeves.
I don't know.
That's just a no.
Excellent. So, like...
What's next, y'all?
Well, Jesus Christ.
So it is hard to speak about the Bunyip because there's such a lack of information. And there's only like 4 books if you count the core.
Yep.
that really have a lot of information. You know, you have Rage Across Australia from the revised edition.
You got a little bit in Past Lives.
Right. Have some in Changing Breeds 20. Then you have Shattered Dreams, which has to do with the Chronicle that has to do with Packaguru messing around at the Dreamtime.
Yeah.
Time travel and all that craziness. So it's really difficult to really talk about them.
It is, well, you bring up Shattered Dreams, because in that book, they wrote all this new shit for them.
Specifically just for this book?
Yeah, that was where it came from, yeah.
Okay.
Because, Shattered Dreams is a book game with, like Grant mentioned, time travel shenanigans. So they do this thing where they make and we're going to talk about the War of Tears in a minute. They talk about how, their fate was cast long ago when they accepted the transformation that tied them with the Thioslin, the marsupials, It's their strange new home. And with this change, they're guardians of the time ways. And what?
That sounds like a lot of extra stuff that was just thrown in there as filler.
I'm going to quote here. The Bunyip collected many hidden time streams across the Australian landscape.
What the fuck?
Thank you. So they locked all these dream lines away in their umbral homeland, safe from the Worm and Gaia's blind servants. The Marsupial Garu didn't seek to control or rule time. They simply fulfilled their duties. Why are they Time Lords?
What?
Yeah. Shattered Dreams done some crazy stuff.
I think I just bummed out Grant here.
I didn't read... I've never read Shattered Dreams.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people talk about it a lot. Mm-hmm. But I knew there was information on here in Shattered Dreams that I purposely didn't look up so we can have this discussion here on the podcast.
Oh, so I can hurt your head on the air.
I guess. I wasn't the intent of, but
you had no idea.
No, I had no idea. I was just, like I said, I was just going for the learning part so I can learn the thing and we can have a discussion on it, but what the fuck?
No, they're fucking Time Lords now. They're all Doctor Who.
And now I know. And I'm not happy about it.
It's just so out there for Werewolf.
Right.
And it irritates me because, maybe I'm the asshole here. But I don't think they needed like a funky hat to be special or cool.
No.
I feel like this decision came from everyone sitting around going, how do we make the Bunyip interesting? They were already interesting. You didn't have to do weird shit.
I mean, we said it. Each of their own tribes all have their own thing.
Yeah.
And they're all interesting. Some more than others. Some have different storylines that are what make them them. But to add something like this, it doesn't make sense. I'm very confused.
You wanna lend a hand digging this hole we're making right now, Grant?
I really don't want to touch it because it just pisses me off. The whole Shattered Dreams and how the direction they took with it.
Yes.
I concur that it was unnecessary to give them that type of overlap. And I knew they were trying to make the Dreamtime more intuitive and have some type of impact of indigenous Australian Pharaoh and them using the Dreamtime in a meaningful way. Got it, cool. They could have done it differently instead of locking it into a single tribe. I mean, you had the Kamazats who were a close ally of the Bunyip. You had the Mokale who were there and they had a good relationship there. You had the Naga that were there. The Rokea, even though they pretty much ignored the Bunyip and what was going on mainland, they still knew what was going on. They still were there and they could have been reached out and used in that type of capacity. It's a missed opportunity in my opinion. They could have created some type of coalition similar to the Adi in Africa from back then, during the Victorian era and prior, that would have been for guarding the Dreamtime and expand on the concept of the Dreamtime having basically an evolution of the Menesis and different timeline possibilities and such, so on and so forth. So it frustrates me that they kind of took an easy way out, if that's the direction they wanted to go in. I lock again in with the Bunyip and saying that, once the Bunyip is gone, all this shit's shattered, all this stuff is done, and you're just out of luck. Because there are already so many things that they could have done with it. Like I just said.
No, you're right. I mean, you could have done anything with this, is the thing. They could have made it, related to, we've heard whispers of another Gaia somewhere out in the Umbra, or the deep, vast expanse of whatever. They could have done something like that. They could have done really anything they wanted to, and in this great mystery of why this area in this land in this section is special. You're right, you could have incorporated the other Farah, but I mean, I hear time travel, and I don't care what we're in. If time travel is not part of the original premise, I'm already rolling my eyes. I'm sorry, but I can't help but feel like the idea of working time travel into this has to do with the fact that it's called the Dream Time. I feel like such an asshole.
I don't know why they did it.
Right? Like, I feel like such an asshole insinuating that they made that correlation on that basic, simple of a level and ran with it. But
is there a better explanation, though?
I mean, it's the worst version.
All right, well, so let's try and break this down. What was the Dream Time?
So it's basically the concept of how reality began to, before I get ahead of myself, dreaming is typically what it's called. The dream time is just a common way to refer to the dreaming. As I said, it's got a lot of variance based on tribe to tribe there. In the World of Darkness, it is the concept of the spiritual world of Australia. So it's like the Umbra, but kind of like supersized. And the dreaming in our reality, it has to do with like every spirit has its own, spirit. Everything has its own spirit, and they're all interconnected. And perception of this reality is one of the things that was given to the Aboriginal tribes by the Creator to help them understand their place in the world and help them understand their overall reality, how they fit into things. The World of Darkness just kind of made it a supersized Umbra, and different things are specifically attuned to it. Australian spirits and totems and things like that. They really didn't go too deep into the cultural aspect of the dreaming, thankfully, because that would have been a huge misstep on their part.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
So that would have been the misstep. Okay.
No. I agree that's not necessary.
Okay.
Because at that point, we're talking about human institution at that point.
Okay.
And a human belief structure, and that's not necessary in werewolf.
Right, because they're not human.
Exactly.
Okay.
We talked earlier about the Judeo-Christian stuff in Vampire, but Vampire is linked with humanity because they were humans
at one time.
You know what I mean? Like there's a connection there, but there doesn't need to be one in werewolf.
Gotcha. Okay.
Think about the Norse mythology and the link to the Get of Fenris, where of course the Get of Fenris version of that Norse mythology doesn't match up with the human ones at all, and why would it? Because in one, Fenrir is this evil, murder beast from hell.
Dog from hell, yes.
And the other, he's Grandfather Wolf and take a knee or else. Right?
Can be both.
So it's kind of like that.
Okay.
It's like, I totally agree. We didn't need to get into the,
I think I was more curious how much of it linked to the Macaulay.
The Meneses?
Kind of.
It doesn't really. So the World of Darkness, they definitively has. They've linked the concept of possibility with the dreaming, which is okay. It's not exactly correct if you're looking at it from the real life perspective, because the dreaming in the real life perspective is like a combination of animism and then the Greek concept of logos. Greek concept of logos has to do with everything has a purpose. The purpose is predefined. And your goal in life is to figure out where you fit in and how it's done. The dreaming already established that. So they established the patterns of life for the Aboriginal people, and they believe that it established how animals are supposed to act, how the trees are supposed to be, how the very rocks are supposed to be and interact with other things, how the weather's supposed to act. So it's this all-encompassing structure of like how the world is supposed to be. Werewolf, they just kind of took it, just sort of used the animism aspect of it, but not really.
But again, it's their own fictional setting and change things how they need to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Now, I do want to double back on something.
Okay.
Because, I have been saying dream time, and Grant, you're saying dreaming. And I want to clarify. I mean, I'm not asking you, I know. I want to clarify for everybody that this is not, when we say dreaming, it's not related to changeling.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was saying dream time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not related to changeling. So anyone out there who's maybe getting lost and wondering what this has to do with it, nothing. Nothing is what it has to do with changeling.
Gotcha.
Just needed that out there because I feel like there's 5 people going, what? Just scratching their heads. And I want to just, don't worry about it, guys. That's not related.
I know jack all about changelings, so...
Neither do I, but it's...
But you know enough where you needed to clarify that. That's
changeling the dreaming.
Oh, see, it's already more than I knew.
Well, there you go. So I knew that there's at least 5 people out there
Okay.
who might have been very confused after this conversation, so I just need to clear that up. Sorry.
That's fair. All right. Well, then, can we hit the War of Tears then?
Absolutely, we can hit the War of Tears. Grant, you still with us? Okay, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm just double checking.
Unfortunate.
The War of Tears is, obviously this is the thing made them the Lost Tribe. This was the event that led to their death. And it's important to bring up again, because this is the second in their series, that the end of each of these Lost Tribes is a lesson. And this is part of why I have a problem with this change they brought with Shattered Dreams. Okay. Of how their fate was sealed when they, in the Guardian, the problem is, and they did a little retcon of this with, arguably with the White Howlers too, and we'll get to that on the day. But you have to keep in mind is that the death of the Croatan was a lesson in honor.
Right.
All right. The loss of the White Howlers, as we'll get into, was originally a lesson in the folly of seeking blind glory. It was a lesson about glory.
Okay.
As originally told, they marched down in those worm tunnels because they were the best.
We can handle this.
And we're going to get all the glory and take out the worm. Fuck it, we win. And then we got black spirals. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get black spirals. But with the Bunyip was a lesson of wisdom and the lack thereof.
So kind of like humility then?
So, well, it was the mistake that was made. What it comes down to, as we learn in Rage Australia, is that there was a third-party involvement. But essentially, when other Garus started showing up in Australia, they didn't hit it off super well with the Bunyip to begin with.
Well, again, they're weird and not wolves.
Exactly, they're weird and strange, and what the hell, and what aren't they sharing? And they're everything about them is foreign. Mm-hmm. But the real heart of it, I would say, came from arguments with the Red Talons. And you read Rage Australia, the story in the beginning. It talks about Wormbaiter the Red Talon, how he killed the last Bunyip.
So the Red Talons were the ones who took out the Bunyip.
We're not doing a 1-for-1 here. We're not going, it was them and only them.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll interject and kind of, because this is touching onto a concept that I find to be really interesting, and I've actually built a chronicle about it for my table.
By all means, then.
So, the first things is, when it comes to the extermination of the Bunyip in the War of Tears, that the whole extermination, the genocide itself, while the Anunnaki did kind of manipulate things to get the Tasmanian tiger killed off, Tasmanian wolf, thylacine, whatever you want to call it, Mara the Scream was actually a black spiral dancer that was in Australia, and she actually manipulated the European guru to go ahead and start the genocide. So what I really like about that is that you have Nada is the one, the corrupted Naga that actually manipulated things to start the War of Rage, and then you have Mara the Scream, who was also obviously worm tainted because she's a black spiral dancer, manipulated the guru to trigger the War of Tears. Awesome thing about that is that you have Kalia, which is this massive death spirit, one of the terrible dragon spirits, who's actually referred to as like Gaia's Grim Reaper. Like, this is the badass spirit she sends off to kill somebody when she personally wants you dead. She's only been used twice. Once to kill Venata, and once to kill Mara the Scream. So I've actually built a chronicle for my table back in the day where there was a third unknown person which caused the fall of the White Howlers. And then Kalia, wiped them out too. But yeah, it's very interesting to see the Guru Nation manipulated by a third party to trigger these genocidal acts.
Very easily done.
Oh, it can be. Thank you for bringing up Mara the Scream. I was
ready to say it.
Yes, but no. I was going to say that in that story brought in Rage Australia is she confronts Wormbaiter and is basically like, "Ha, I fucking did this. You're dumb."
Really?
Oh yeah. No, she shows up and is like, "This was me. Ha."
Of course.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, she shows up to gloat. It's like that's the story. Like the death of the last Bunyip is like a footnote of the story. The story is really about how she just fucking
tricked him the whole time.
It's one of the ones that's worth reading.
Okay.
And that's why I look to this idea of when you change the circumstances around those tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Here, where Shattered Dreams suggests that they had sealed their own fate because they made the change, but that takes away the lesson. A lack of wisdom is ultimately, I mean, that was the point. These were tales of, behind the surface, these were tales about glory, honor, and wisdom, and what those mean and what a lack of those can do. And that's why that kind of retcon irritates me so much, because now that just threw away the point.
Yeah, there's no longer a lesson in that.
No.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No, of course, that's not, as Grant pointed out, the Thausian, they're gone, allegedly. And I don't really mean allegedly. But if you look through the books, there's kind of, and I think I just chuckle there, Grant. Yeah, there's a through line of maybe they're not dead after all.
Oh, one of those.
Right. And, even today.
I can go ahead and lean into that if you want me to.
Oh, please.
So, yeah, because we mentioned the Child of Gaia earlier, and there's actually a nice little plot line in canon lore where you have a particular Child of Gaia who is named, I always mess this one up, it's like Cernerus, and he's a Metis. He's generally, disenfranchised about life for whatever reason. And he was one of the kinfolk. Originally of the Bunyip, so he's kin of the Bunyip, even though he's a child of Gaia. And he began to actually clone the Tasmanian wolves from stolen genetic material. Like he'd go to museums and labs and stuff and steal DNA, and he actually cloned them towards the end of the revised series edition. And then he actually used some nice weaver skills to make those clones have babies, and those babies actually smelled like Guru. They had their first change at around 2 or 3 years old, and they actually formed their own little pack. So he was super excited whenever, he mated these clones to have basically pseudo Bunyip. They were like overly brutal, overly aggressive, super hardcore, and obviously that's definitively not what the Bunyip was. And then he figured out that spiritual aspect of that breed was filled in with worm spirits. So he basically made werewolves like the Pentex did, but with Bunyip.
Huh. Interesting.
Silence. Just silence.
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to talk about the Bunyip 12.
Oh, that's what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you said lean in, I thought you were going to lean in about the rumors of the Thioslines, the sightings of them and all that. I didn't know you were going to the Bunyip 12.
Oh, yeah, that
I
too.
wasn't
In real
prepared
life,
for that,
there's
yeah.
some rumors that there's some Tasmanian tigers still existing out there in Tasmania. Just very well hidden. So.
But yeah, you bring up the Bunyip 12. He cloned them and was so proud of his babies and, started to notice that things were going fishy. And I believe it's in Apocalypse when we make the worm connection, and they end up calling themselves the Hollow Walkers and make Sarania stance as well. But I reject that.
Just full stop.
I do. Not that they came out wrong, but the worm connection.
Did come out wrong.
Oh, the worm connection you're just rejecting. Okay.
It being flat out cloned children of science, I feel the Weaver connection would be more appropriate. Besides the fact we already have evil worm Garu.
Right. See, I was thinking they were one and the same, or at least they were going to connect in some way.
How so?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was just trying to see it.
No, yeah, you were okay. Yeah, you're learning this right now.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Why don't you have a full plan for them immediately? No.
Because I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, exactly. I love that through line because it's been there pretty much since the beginning. Of the attempts to clone them. You look back as far as Warriors of the Apocalypse. Sarnia's Armor of the Goddess is a rage card. So is detailed in Warriors of the Apocalypse, talking about trying to resurrect the Bunyip.
Oh. See, that I didn't know either.
So to finally in Revised have the Bunyip 12 happen, and it was in a World of Rage, I thought was super cool. And super appropriate that they didn't come out right.
I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah.
You're trying to clone a thing that
and again,
we shouldn't.
Yeah, we get back into that Garu gene. Well, there is no Garu gene. Well, then how did DNA find GLS? Well,
right.
That shit.
Huh. I'm connecting the dots here.
Slow.
It really is, and it's... You hate it when that happens, when you come to these contradictions in the lore. But like, oh no, that makes sense. There wouldn't be a Garu gene, except if there's no Garu gene, then like these 5 fucking plot lines that you guys wrote don't make any sense. So what do? There is and there isn't.
Storyteller discretion, I guess.
It becomes it at that point because it's a source of how many arguments and debates out there because both answers are right and both answers are wrong.
Solid.
But no,
same thing with the different scenarios of the apocalypse. They expanded the meta plot to such an extent, but then it was, well, which one do you want to use in your game?
Well, right.
It had like 4 major differences.
Oh, definitely. But then again, the Apocalypse book set out to just offer suggestions for scenarios. Absolutely. None of those were canon. They might be now, but that's a different show.
Oh, here's the thing, too.
Okay.
Shattered Dreams isn't canon, technically. They actually say it's not canon.
Did they? Did I miss that?
Yep.
Well, that makes me happier. I don't like
it's
that
just
book.
a possibility. It's like Apocalypse, but for prehistory.
See, that I didn't know. Because I could have swore, at least maybe you did, but I thought somebody else did too and said there was canon.
Well, why would you think it wasn't?
I mean, people treat it as canon, but...
So now we know. It's not canon. It's merely a suggestion.
And that makes me feel better about the book.
Okay, so it's canon in somebody's games. Someone's game out there, it's canon for them.
Cool. But, yeah, I reject the time travel shit. There shouldn't be police boxes in the Outback, that's all I'm saying.
It's actually right there at the beginning of the book on page 9.
You know what, then I probably read it and long since forgot about it.
Literally, it's a note from the publisher. It's like a sidebar, and it literally says, "While this book is classified as non-canon, it does not make it any less valuable."
Fair enough.
Yeah. I see a little sigh of relief on your face.
Well, I mean, look,
it's page 8 at the top, not page 9.
Those early pages.
Yeah.
Some important shit in there. Pay attention, folks. No, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's relief. I mean, because at the end of the day, my canon's going to be what my canon is.
Right.
But, I hate to... I'm just not a huge fan of the book.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't like undercutting some of those basic lessons,
And you said it. One's a lesson in wisdom, a lesson in glory, a lesson in honor. That makes so much sense why those 3 are such a huge part of the game. And why they're not playable.
Right? Because if you bring them back...
You take away that...
Yeah, you undercut... Again, you completely disregard the lesson.
We bring back the White Howlers. Why? Yeah, exactly.
No, the Bunyip are back and they're totally fine, so it's okay to act without wisdom and not think things through and genocide your own people. Totally cool. It's going to work out in the end.
Now we know.
Right? Or in the case of what was made the change of Shattered Dreams, is it's not a lesson in wisdom, it's fate. It's fate. They made their choice.
That part bothers me.
That's what I'm saying.
I get it. I see why you're, I don't want to say upset, but...
It sticks in my craw.
Yeah. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
That's about right.
Well, something that they did mention in Rage Across Australia, which would tie into, like, if you were going to use your Bunyip in your Modern Times game. You have what they called the Jindabyne Council, however you say it, which was Australia's Adi, basically, but it was only for the different tribes of the Guru. If the Bunyip had survived into Modern Times, you could expect them to actually expand that and have something like the Hinja Yoke or the Adi, where there's actually a multi-Pharaoh organization that administers over Australia. Australia is huge. A lot of Americans don't realize that landmass is nearly the same size as America. And America is insanely big if you start looking at it as a country. So it would make sense to have this type of Pharaoh council to really handle and administer the affairs of that continent and all the spiritual needs. The Bunyip would play into that so easy. I mean, it'd be great to have them there. The loss is one of the things that just contributes to Apocalypse. The big 3, that's a loss of each renown lesson, and they learned the lesson to prevent Apocalypse? No, they did not.
You bringing that up reminds me, because, unfortunately that didn't happen, but again, I think if it did, it would, like I said, it's Werewolf the Apocalypse. Not Werewolf the Man Things could have been really bad there. All right, we got Danny.
Werewolf, shoot, that was a close one.
Yeah, right? Jeez, could you imagine?
Glad we didn't kill all the Gronder after all.
Right? What a relief. They can just take care of this.
Oh, what could have been?
I guess I'll have a coffee then.
There you go.
The fact of the matter is we did lose the Bunyip. And as a consequence, the Umbra of Australia is, we're going to call it, a little inhospitable.
Oh.
Yeah, just a little bit.
A little bit.
So
It's
from it being like extremely thin gauntlet, you can just go in and out.
Well, it's still a pretty thin gauntlet. I mean, there's still a lot of nothing out there. It's just everything out there hates you because you killed all the Bunyip. And that includes Bunyip spirits.
Yeah, the spirit world loved the Bunyip.
Well, you said they were the most spiritually inclined,
Yeah.
so I can imagine. But now if you go out to Australia, like the Umbra just doesn't want you to be there?
Oh, a lot of the spirits are hostile, and again, there are Bunyip ghosts in the outback who will just flat out kill your ass.
That's awesome. I mean, that sucks, but like that's awesome.
The Anunnaki especially pretty much fled Australia after the Bunyip fell because the super badass spirit, which is I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it's been mentioned in the Anunnaki breed book that the Yahweh, or not Yahweh because that's different, but it's spelled Yahwie. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but it's this badass spirit that just goes through, and if you're Anunnaki in Australia, it's taking you out. It's doing everything it can to take you out. And a lot of them, even if they touch Australian soil and then leave, that badass spirit follows them to wherever they at and just kills them. Leave shit. It's like, oh, you're a were spider, you're no longer allowed in Australia, period. You come here, you're dead.
So flat out Anunnaki are not even welcome in Australia.
I mean, that's...
Spirit will kill them.
Yeah. And again, and while there is a Garu presence in Australia, a lot of Octana, there's a Red Talon presence, there's a Glass Walker presence. I mean, there's Garu down there.
Sure.
But you don't want to wander around the Umbra of the Outback.
The Umbra of the Outback.
And you think about all those Bunyip cairns that are hidden and dormant there still.
It's cool to think about.
Right? I mean, you could do chronicles on trying to win the support or I don't want to use the word forgiveness, but...
You won't be forgiven.
Right, but the favor or whatever you can do to mend fences with those Bunyip spirits in hopes of learning some gifts or some secret knowledge or access to a cairn that might help turn the tide. I'm not saying you'd necessarily get it, but even the attempts to burn, to mend some of those fences is grounds for a chronicle all by itself.
That's a cool idea. No, I absolutely can see that. Favor for a favor kind of thing.
Well, I think a few hundred for I killed all of you.
Okay, so a whole lot of a chronicles worth of favors.
It's like an eye for a soul at that point.
So I think the biggest thing that really messes with the Umbra in Australia is the fact that moon bridges don't act the way they do in other parts of the world. They don't sometimes connect to the same place. Sometimes they connect to 2 or 3 different places at the same time. They don't lead to the same place every time. So there's a lot of packs that decide, hey, let's go on a moon bridge and stop by Australia as a detour. And then, well, they just never end up where they're supposed to be. They take that left at Australia and end up, lost in wrong turn land somewhere.
In Antarctica?
It's the same left at Albuquerque that Bugs Bunny keeps fucking up.
Well done.
While we're on it, what the fuck's the road system look like down there that he knows where Albuquerque is to make the left turn?
I don't know. It's fucking Looney Tunes, man.
I mean, sure.
I mean, roads are bridges, and bridges are sides of mountains, so...
Well, roads... You son of a bitch. Roads doesn't mean the thing you drive on anymore. It's the amount of time it takes to get from one place to another.
Oh, see, there's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking words don't matter anymore.
That's... Ooh.
It's a different story for a different time.
That is a salty-ass callback. Sorry, folks.
Yikes!
We just like it when words mean the things that they mean around here.
So, I mean, if you had a pack that was in Australia as a storyteller and you really wanted them to be able to use the pathways that's in Australia to get from place to place, they had something called songlines, which is, it's part of dreaming, right? It's part of the lore of the dream time. Aboriginal Australians, they have these details about it in their stories and songs. If you had one of those packs that somehow gained the patronage of one of the extinct Bunyip spirits or whatever, they may theoretically be able to use the songlines, to jump from place to place. But for the most part, not a lot of people know how to do it. It's just a dangerous place to be for Guru overall.
So you had to do a lot of favors to get what you would need for these song lines.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to get the patronage of a Bunyip spirit or an Australian
give
spirit
that for
that's strong
free.
enough to give you access.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Well, I mean,
again, you can make whole chronicles out of that.
oh,
Sounds
absolutely.
Cool.
And I mean, you got to think about it this way. It's one thing, like, you look at, like, the skull picks, right, who are related to the Grandor, fine. But it's a totally different animal than the spirit of the thing that your ancestor murdered.
Yeah. They're not inclined to help.
Right. So, I mean, it's a Herculean task at all. I mean, if I were running that, it would be, I don't know how long before the spirit even acknowledged you or chose not to attack you on sight.
Whoa.
And I mean, that's just to get that foot in the door. It's
Jesus.
certainly not going to be, well, you said you're sorry, mate, so, all's forgiven.
I guess.
This is a knife. It's not going to be that simple. It's not a game of knifey spoony.
You can't just blow on the didgeridoo and all of a sudden sing Kumbaya with these spirits.
Right?
Didgeridoos are awesome. That's my impression of a didgeridoo without having a didgeridoo.
I think you need one of those.
That
for the
smells
studio now.
disgusting. What's wrong with you? We have to sit in this now.
Oh my god. Damn it. I can't even take it out anymore.
Nope, too late. I'm going to make a big fart noise. There are not going to be any consequences.
Wasn't supposed to be a fart noise. It was a very
And yet.
bad impression of a didgeridoo.
And you never thought I'd turn that around on you.
No,
Welcome to the show.
spur of the moment. Bad decision time.
If you listen to you all.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's fascinating, the potential for what is lost and hidden out there.
Mm-hmm.
In my games, it certainly isn't going to be time portals,
I hope not.
but you look at what's listed in past lives. I believe there's some that are suggested or hinted at in Australia, I think. And I believe there's that section World 20. So there are, like, gifts available that you can take and you can look at.
Mm-hmm. But you'd have to get the patronage to get to it.
Right. There's some info on the Spirit Brood out there. It's not a lot, of course, but there's some, and they're mentioned, and, well, what's the potential there? I think there's a lot of ground if you want to try to do this healing wounds of the past and trying to make good on those mistakes. I think there's a lot of potential for the Bunyip and a lot of mystery. You know how I love my deep werewolf mysteries that you can just dive into and, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah. We said it, though. I mean, you have not the speculation, but, like, the making up for the sins with the Shadow Lords and the Kimitsats.
Yes.
And then, what was the other one? I don't remember now. All of a sudden.
It's a great example.
And I obviously it wasn't a thing, but I had mentioned that it could be a possibility with the Get and the Gurhal as far as fixing past mistakes. So, yeah, any pack out there to run a game and try and mend fences with the Bunyip, that's hell yeah.
It's a very different thing than trying to undo what was done.
Right.
Agreed, yeah.
You're
not going to undo it.
Right. You could, because your story, look, you can do whatever your storyteller says. Right? Your storyteller writes it, it's going to happen.
I guess.
But don't do that. Don't undo it. Don't undercut the lesson. The lesson's important. But, yeah, man, trying to make up for those past mistakes, trying to reclaim, even if you fail, can still be a good story. The end of that chronicle, that 2 or 3 chronicles trying to win the favor of the Bunyip and gain those secrets, can end with, yeah, you're not gonna.
And that could be a lesson in itself.
Right? I mean, it's a little unsatisfying for your players, but certainly they can be rewarded in other ways in the nation for the attempt. That doesn't mean that the Bunyip are going to go, yeah, fuck it, you guys are cool after all. Don't worry about that whole murder thing.
We forgive you.
Right? You can't save them, maybe. Or you can't save them. But maybe there's nothing you can do that'll make it right. But the fact that you tried to make it right is important.
It can still be rewarding.
Right. Just not maybe in the way that you expected to be when you got into it.
Maybe you're taught like a new gift that only the Bunyip had or something.
Possibly. But,
there's a bunch of them.
Do there really are?
Oh, I'm curious now. Like what?
Like a lot of gifts.
They have a full spectrum of gifts detailed in past lives and Rage Across Australia.
Like that specifically only the Bunyip knew, though.
Well, there's some crossover.
There's some overlap. Yeah,
but there's some overlap everywhere.
I'm sure there is.
So
I'm just curious if either one of you had something specific.
I didn't write it down. They have some in 20, right? Or is there another book in the 20 line I'm thinking of? It might be Shattered Dreams. Jesus.
That would
So
suck
many.
if it is.
That would be. The joke's on me, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, there are places where that stuff, so there's some stuff listed, which is really nice because there was a time when that was not going to happen.
Right.
Like, at all.
No, I mean, they talked about this. I want to say Ethan Skemp did.
Okay.
But don't quote me on it. This was during the development process of Werewolf 20. On that Kickstarter, you get the dev diaries, and it was an interactive process for a while on Werewolf 20.
Cool.
Where people really had some input, and I believe it was Ethan, talked about how there was a culture in White Wolf back in the day, and I was a part of this, so I know about it. Not a part of White Wolf, but I was big in the community. That you can do whatever you want in these games, but there's certain things you can't do.
Right, we've mentioned that before.
Yeah, we've talked about this. Yeah, like, you can do whatever you want, except not that. Not so fast, asshole. And in bringing back the Lost Tribes
was one of those things.
Was that thing for Werewolf.
Okay.
Whatever you want. No, you can't bring the White Howlers back. And you know what? That's why the Bunyip weren't detailed in Wild West. That's why the Croton weren't in Dark Ages.
Huh.
Because if we gave you info on them here, you could use them there, and you can't use them, but you can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want, just not this.
Just not the stuff on the don't list.
Huh.
It was just always the way, and they said they wanted to change that up with Werewolf 20.
Right.
So, since 20, a lot more information came out, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of information, unless you're a White Howler.
Right, of course.
Of course.
So, since we did mention Bunyip only gifts, there is one gift. Not really sure. I think it was a rank 4 or 5. It's a really high level gift.
Oh shit!
But it's got a lot of potential, and compared to other rank 5 gifts, it's not really overpowering unless you make it overpowering. But anyway, so what the Bunyip could do is that they could enter any body of fresh water and then emerge from another freshwater body, regardless of distance.
That's stupid cool.
Right, they could just do what they spent like a couple of Genosis points, walked into Lake Titicaca, and then they come out somewhere in Australia instantaneously.
That's what the. It's a lot like that Glasswalker gift where they can look through any of those windows from that 2 block radius or whatever that was.
I thought you were going to say the one where they can jump through phones.
No.
But yeah, that gift had the potential to be super OP.
Was it also a Glasswalker that you can pop up from a...
What's that?
There was another gift, I'm trying to remember who it was by. I think it was the Glasswalker. You can hide in one shadow and pop up from another shadow.
That sounds Shadow Lordy.
That is a gift.
I remember it was... I mentioned it to Tom, like, that this would be badass for you. Too bad you're not this tribe. I don't remember which tribe it was, but...
But the Bunyip, I mean, that's fucking awesome.
You go from one body of water to another. Yeah, I can see that.
I wonder how bad you could abuse that.
Oh, very.
Like, just for shits and grins, right? Like, what constitutes a body of water?
It has to be fresh water. That was the restriction. Couldn't be saltwater, but it had to be freshwater.
Still,
Okay.
you could still abuse the
You,
shit
I
out of
think
that.
you could still, because hear me out, right? You know, maybe a glass. Is a glass a body of water?
Well, you have to submerge yourself.
Is a bathtub.
Yes.
So you keep a bathtub.
At all times.
You just keep it in there.
Yep.
That's your ticket, baby.
Just call your mama. Hey, Mom, fill up the tub for me. I'll be there in a few minutes.
Right?
That's the oddest statement I think I've ever heard on this podcast.
Yeah, that might win. I didn't process those words as you said them, Grant.
Saying something.
Right? That might go on a T-shirt. with your name attributed, Grant.
Yep. That's, yeah,
What
we're
you do,
gonna.
Batman?
Might add an Esquire to your name too, just for shits and grins.
Perfect.
Uncle Kath will lose his mind for that. He's not a fucking Esquire. Take that shit off.
Oh my god. Wow.
I love it.
Holy. Oh man, sorry, I got tears in my eyes after that one. Oh, Jesus.
We may have had to take a second to settle down here.
Something else high-ranking Bunyip could do that I really, really leaned into whenever I had the Wind Chronicle was that they could actually use a gift. I think it was rank 5 as well, where they turn someone else into a black swan.
Turn him into a what?
Here's black swan, like the bird.
Oh,
Swan.
okay. Huh.
And the crazy thing is if they did it to another supernatural, any attributes of that supernatural state was retained, but they couldn't use their abilities. So if they turned a leech, for example, into a black swan, it was a vampiric leech. Still couldn't go out in the sunlight, still needed blood to not be in torpor. They couldn't use any of their powers.
That's odd.
It is odd.
I wonder the connection between the black swans there.
It has to do with Australian mythology. There's a lore involved in it, and actually, there's a lot of folk tales when it comes to about things being turned into black swans or swans. There's a European story about it. There's an Australian story. That's where the origins of that particular aspect of it come.
See, I was just going to make a Natalie Portman joke.
That too. They're actually turning into swans, though. Natalie Portman. Although that would be a different gift.
That would be a much greater gift.
That's a good gift.
I'd be a lot madder about the death of the Bunyip if that was the...
Screw this lesson.
Right?
Bring him back.
Oh my god.
But yeah, the change was permanent. Unless the thing that was changed had shape-shifting abilities, it was a permanent change.
So, no, if they had shape-shifting abilities, oh my god. Were we dealing with like a Krynos Black Swan scenario?
No, I think they just changed into the normal form.
Odd.
I'm kind of into that, though.
But only if Natalie Portman's involved.
Well, look, I don't want to wear Natalie Portman.
So
WE or WE, look.
They did it as a punishment, obviously, against people that were doing what they shouldn't have been doing. That's a really potent weapon to use against, say, kinfolk. Like, hey, you'll either do what the hell we say, or I'm just going to turn you into a quack bird.
I mean, I feel that's a little unnecessary for kinfolk, because, I mean, isn't it good enough to go, you'll do what I say or I go upside your head?
Yes.
The Bunyip were non-violent, typically.
They're Garu. There are levels here.
I was going to say,
and
yeah.
also, allegedly. You weren't there.
They still had rage.
I mean...
Non-violent. Fuck off.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. They less violent, I believe.
Yes.
Non-violent, they're Garu. No, you're lying.
But they preferred to use aspect of wisdom to teach, like you were saying. That was their whole
Certainly.
big shtick, is we don't need to use this aspect of our existence and our reality, because we can use this other aspect.
But
it was kind of a last resort.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are the worm creatures that are popping up, and we're not going to talk them to death.
Oh, no, they wiped them out, no problem.
So, not less violent for your average Garu, but, I don't know.
I can get behind that.
I would be curious. And I think maybe I would like more information first, but that's not going to happen. But I'd be very curious as to set a game during the War of Tears.
Huh. During the genocide of the Bunyip?
During the War of Tears, man. maybe play a pack of Bunyip.
Oh shit! Where they've got to survive for their lives.
Well, no, they're not. They're going to die because that's what happened. But
when I say that, they're ultimately not going to win.
Right. But yeah, that idea of that pack that's doomed in the middle of this thing that's going on. And I want to say middle, not end. When you know it's fucking over. Not when you know it's fucking over. Not when there's like, okay, well, I think there's 20 of us left. What do we do now? And I mean, that could be interesting too. But, you have it placed a few months into this whole nonsense. And, what's that like? I think that'd be interesting as hell.
No, I agree. That sounds cool as hell. I like that.
I'd be into it. I'd be open to that idea. Again, we've talked about the idea of trying to appease those old spirits.
The history of them, the history of the Bunyip themselves.
Well, sure. And I mean, we've talked about Bunyip 12. And I mean, I think those three things are your viable avenues for using the Bunyip in a game.
And again, there's not that much information out there, so...
Right. So, like, it's hard to go, let's play one way before, where you have, before the War of Tears and everything. We don't know. We don't have enough there. But the rest of it. I mean, again, I think it's the Lost Tribes. It's the one that got the shortest end of the stick, I think, in terms of coverage. So I'm glad we got here today to talk about them.
Absolutely.
We
got to finish a series. We got to not drag out series. So
we did the Auspice.
I know
twice.
Kind of. We got to finish Thurge.
Wow. Yeah.
The second half of Thurge,
I guess. No, I know it's about that time for us. So, Grant, thank you again for joining us.
Of course, always.
I suspect we will hear from you very soon.
Willing to bet. It's got a race to make.
Great. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us, Grant. It's always great to have you here. On behalf of Mr. Dana Tyson and myself, we want to say thank you all for listening. Thank you for all your support. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Keep your claws sharp and your head in a swivel. We'll see you.